All right, it's time to dive in and learn a little bit about programming this bad boy. First thing we're going to look at is the oscillator 1 section. There's not too many options on it, so it's a good one to start with if you're thinking about learning to work with the sound generation area of the Prophet 6. The first thing I'd like to do is get into that basic preset mode. So I'll hit preset and write and reset to get a nice blank preset. So I'm working now only with oscillator 1. And with the filter section turned off and the effects also not really in use. The first thing I can look at with oscillator 1 is frequency right there. And that sets the base frequency of the oscillator. This is also dependent on the global tuning area. So I could globally shift the whole thing up and it'll apply it to every oscillator. But basically what it lets me do is set a different frequency between oscillator 1 and 2. So I could play one note and maybe get a nice fifth sound if I shift 1 a fifth up. So I can take that C and sweep the bass frequency. Now keep in mind that it's telling me C2 is the bass frequency right now, that oscillator. Don't be confused if you push D. You wouldn't tune it to D, because you're tuning the bass tuning of that oscillator based around C. So playing a C, playing C2 specifically means I'm getting that oscillator's basic level. And then if I tune the oscillator to D2, then when I push this D, it's not really playing a D, it's telling it play a D in relation to the oscillator's bass tuning, which is a whole step higher. So right in that case, I'm getting an E there. So I need to tune this to C2 if I want C to be C, basically. And now D is D, C is C, B is B. So that's the frequency. It'll let you shift it up and down. I've got a sync button there, which will allow oscillator 1 to hard sync to oscillator 2. And that means that no matter what, the two frequency start times will be together and locked, synchronized. I've got a sweepable shape knob. So it's not a physical hard click, it's sweepable, so I can continuously vary between the triangle wave to a sawtooth wave sound to a pulse wave type sound and get every type of variation in between. I've got another knob for pulse width, which is only going to have any effect when I'm using a pulse wave. So if I play a note and it's not a pulse wave, turning the pulse width will do absolutely nothing. But if I go into pulse wave mode, adjusting the width of that pulse will let me vary between a true square wave and a pulse wave. The last thing I've got is the oscillator slop. And that is fixing one of the slight problems that's inherent in modeling and using modern synthesizers. So the Prophet 6 has actual analog oscillators. The problem is that Dave Smith Instruments has really great quality control, and they can make oscillators that don't drift out of tune. They've figured out how to constantly retune and use a tuning table and keep everything nice and in tune. But if you want that old out-of-tune oscillator sound, you can use slop to put it back in. So now I'm going to get a certain amount of tuning instability. So you can decide how much of that classic oscillator detuningness and instability you want in there.